Hi folks, we're back and we're cutting through the matrix. I've been watching other countries push the euthanasia bills through, and it's always the same techniques they use, of course, and the same organizations involved have actually got in naturally to their government departments. And it's time now. You see, it's time after the meetings I've had with Rockefeller and all the organizations at the top. The Lucky Club, for instance, as they call it, where Rockefeller goes and Bill Gates goes. It's amazing when you become a multi-billionaire, you suddenly have this love to kill people off the planet. And that seems to be your main concern. There are just too many people. It's never something else. It's always the same thing, isn't it? But of course, they're all fronts. You understand that. Everyone who gets to the top in these organizations, even as a spokesperson or someone on TV that can sway the minds of millions, like Oprah, they all play a part. And it is a part that's made for them. They're well produced. They have producers and handlers and managers and all the rest of it to make sure their image is just right for the audience and all the fools are going to mislead. However, once they get up there, they all join the club, like the Lucky Club, they call it themselves. I guess that means the lucky genes, eh? And then they decide to want to kill off the rest of the planet. And then in their last meeting, Rockefeller said it wasn't good enough that sterilization was going underway, meaning, health for women, by the way, is one of the terms they use for that across the world. They're talking about sterilization through the United Nations in cohort with them, of course. And he actually said we'll have to start rapid depopulation. He's talking about culling, folks. It's not bad enough that we're dying off with cancers left and right from all age groups, by the way. It's increasing at a phenomenal rate. It's not fast enough for them because these boys and their offspring who truly believe that they have the right to go on with their offspring being superior, of course, genetically, and we're eating up all the resources and we're not needed anymore, you see, to conquer the planet. That's pretty well, we've conquered it all for them. That was part of our job. So they're trying to get us now to start to think more in humanistic terms because they give us humanism to replace all the other religions that they knocked the floor under. And as they went down under the floor, out came humanism, secular humanism, which is a religion in itself with its own belief system. However, it fits in with today's society, which has been made hedonistic, narcissistic, and basically egocentric. Totally divided, of course, because what narcissists can get on with another. And everyone's a little actor in their own little bubble of a world where they all believe they're on reality television or something. And they have the aid of technology which has been put out for them to encourage that too. You can't believe what people say in the streets now as they're passing by on the phone. Or even the topics they pass to each other. It's just incredible. Anyway, they're not really in a reality and they don't mind who hears them. Everything's a reality show to them. But euthanasia, you see, we're the only creature on the planet that has to be convinced through argument and persuasion to allow ourselves to be killed off. We truly are. We have been domesticated. That's bad enough. But even sheep sometimes, you get the occasional sheep that will not go into the pen. Because that sheep has seen something done by the shepherd at some time that kind of went against the grain of him being a good shepherd. But it's implanted in his brain and he doesn't want to go in there. We don't even have that sense. We don't even have that. No, we have to be convinced through indoctrination at school and big scary stories, as I said at the top themselves. I've read the articles from the big boys. We must give them scary stories for them to believe anything. We have to be given scary stories, and we're all going to die stuff if we don't stop pumping out CO2 and all that rot. That's going to fall in by the wayside as we go into this big cooling phase. But anyway, the carbon taxes will go ahead. Poverty is to come. Rationing of food will come. That has been on their agenda for over 60 years, by the way. Rationing of food. But they're going ahead now with their euthanasia advertising and signs and all the rest of it. Now, they started last year, I think, with abortion ads on TV. And now as pro-euthanasia signs get the go-ahead on billboards. It's a controversial advertisement which supports voluntary euthanasia will be displayed on the Hume Highway, Yanuga, this is Australia, from next week after it's approved by Billboards Australia. The Canterbury Bankstown Express reports a debate is understood to have flared over the legality of the ad after Billboards Australia claimed its content could have flouted the New South Wales Crime Act, which forbids the aiding of suicide or attempted suicide. But Greg Barnes, who is acting pro bono for voluntary euthanasia, I'm sure he is, yeah. Campaigner Philip Nitschke, it's so close to Nietzsche, isn't it? So Philip Nitschke's organization Exit International argued otherwise and convinced the advertising agency that the billboard referred only to public support of voluntary euthanasia and the government's failure to mirror the sentiment. Public support, apparently, yeah, is really, they're clamoring to be killed. The billboard also expected to be posted in Melbourne and Brisbane in coming months will read, 85% of Australians support voluntary euthanasia. Our government doesn't. Make them listen. Well, really, how they pick things out there like global warming and CO2 and stuff like that. The same with their statistics, they dream up as well. Same thing, but it is the agenda and it's got to get pushed forward. It's got to be. The big boys have said it. Now start pushing, you see. Now, Holland already is put up as if Holland's been doing it for years, what's wrong with us? Well, if they've been beheading people in some African countries, should we start doing the same thing here? Huh? So you can't use that kind of logic, but they use it all the time. And this article I'll read will tell you too about more than just the sign of euthanasia. Back after this.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
Hi folks, we're back, cutting through the matrix, just showing you how the agenda is pushed forward. Remember too, you might agree on euthanasia, but you see, it's not a matter of agree on euthanasia. What it is, they want government certified doctors to go around and basically condemning people. And when you put this kind of power in the hands of government, you're in big trouble. You're in awfully big trouble. Because see, governments have their own manifestos to fulfill. And they're deadly serious about population reduction. And they've already found out in Holland, for instance, there's been so many cases of wrongful euthanasia. They even euthanized a nun who definitely did not have it in any written agreement or oral agreement with them to do so. And they've done many cases like this now, and there's a lot of criticism about it. But folk will adapt. Folk adapt to anything. They adapt to bodies hanging on wires as art and stuff like that. And that's how degraded we become. They can only push this kind of stuff through when we're utterly degraded. And as it was Julian Huxley from UNESCO, that wonderful United Nations organization, who said that we'd have to push man off his pedestal as a supreme being on the planet and bring him down to the level of the animals. Well, they've done that very, very well with a lot of work, starting about from the 50s, definitely the 60s, and definitely the 70s, right to the present time. They fulfilled all the planks of the Communist Manifesto to bring in this global system. But it says how to die. This is a handout piece, obviously, to this newspaper to make you. This is how they get you round up. Well, I'm not quite sure. Maybe they're quiet. Maybe they've an idea, and as they put you off guard a little bit. Most folk really don't have their opinions. They're downloaded by them. It says how to die becoming as important a question as how to live. So it's a handout. I don't see any writer here, any writer's name. Opinions are divided on whether euthanasia can be a rational choice. Bob Brum's post-election call for a conscience vote on the territory's right to pass euthanasia laws has been criticised for being a distraction from issues that really matter to the average Canadian or Australian. It could be anywhere, mind you, couldn't it? But such criticism misses the likelihood that the 21st century may well be the one where how to die becomes as important a question as how to live. Advances in medical care have transformed our relationship to dying. Medical technology will continue to blur what we mean by death and its relation to our lives. Foreshadowed by the extraordinary cases such as, then they always bring this one up, the American case, the 41-year-old American Terry Schiavo, who was in a vegetative state, they say, even though she could gesture and communicate and all the rest of it, they call it vegetative. Sounds better that way when you talk about euthanasia. For more than 15 years, a prolonged legal and political battle eventually led to the stopping of tube feeding in 2005 and her death. Now, people around her, and they came out on lots of stations who had talked with her, been in to see her, said that she didn't want to die. But it was a judge's decision who put it through, and they killed her. That's what happens when you put it in the hands of the authorities. It says a much less publicized case was played out in Australia in 2003. The New South Wales Supreme Court ruled that treatment could be withdrawn from Isaac. Again, too, it's interesting how Terry Schiavo, it's so close to Shaver. Shiver was the old name for a sin eater in the Middle Ages, where they couldn't find a priest to give last rites. They had the sin eater, and they called him a Shivo or Shaver. And here's this one in Australia where it's called Isaac Messiah. Can you believe it? Where did they find, I'm saying this is not coincidence. They find these this means a lot to the big boys with their occult languages and stuff. Why wouldn't they wait for someone else to come along with a different name, Joe Smith or something? Anyway, it says a 75-year-old man whose life was supported by ventilation and tube feeding after he suffered severe brain damage from a stroke. And it's a difficult decision to have in a society that has so little exposure to death and dying in comparison with previous generations. That was part of the tactic, by the way, was to sterilize, not just all of us, but actually sterilize the emotion or the interaction between those who were getting old and those who were dying. They're whisked off to a hospital, and the next thing you know, they're in all dressed up in their best clothes in a morgue somewhere, or the exit place where they put you up the chimney, and I always say you've never looked better, by the way, after they put all their makeup and stuff on you. But it's all to make it look hygienic and nice and clean. People used to take care of their own as they were dying, and it gave the youngsters, at a very young age, an appreciation for life. And they were far kinder to each other because they realized that anyone that they loved could die at any time. They might die at any time. It made them think completely differently.